I don't know how to hack anyone, right? I don't know how to hack, but data has always been there, and data is valuable. So nowadays, to hack someone, it's much easier with AI.
People are not speaking to each other. It's about going back to a basic human connection,
So it's
right?
Communication
people.
builds. Anything that comes to mind in terms of who's done it well, what were the kind of key factors that differentiated?
Has anyone done it well?
Well, very often you'll have the security department, right? Pretty much isolated in their own ivory tower, right? Creating all the policies and all the controls, and applying them.
A CFO being called
Yes, I did
to a
hear about
meeting
that,
on
yeah.
Teams by the CEO, and they were all deep fakes, and the guy nearly wired, I don't know how much the money was. Your organization, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirsten, is not even going to be innovative when it comes to cybersecurity.
Probably not even secure.
So, exactly. So they're not going to use the
Worst
most
case.
innovative security solutions. They probably won't be secure.
Welcome to PwC Trend Talks. I'm Shreeram, and today we are going to talk about two important topics. One, that cybersecurity is not just a cost center, and AI is not just a productivity tool. With me, I have two experts who are going to help have this discussion on how we can transform in this space. First, we have Kirsten, who's a cybersecurity technologist. If you can introduce yourself.
Yes, and thanks, Shreeram. I've been in the cyber field for the last 9 years now. I'm both a technologist, I also do a bit of strategy, governance, risk, and compliance. I'm sure we'll be touching upon these topics later on during this podcast.
Thank you. And we have Jake here, who's an AI and digital transformation consultant and has lots of first-hand experience on how AI is helping various businesses.
Thank you, Shreeram. So I've been in the field now for the past 13 years, starting out in data, but as time moved by, evolving into AI and emerging technology. So hopefully we can shed some light on what AI is all about and how it can be used in today's world.
Perfect. Let's start with some uncomfortable truths. Cybersecurity spend is increasing year on year, yet breaches are also increasing. So how does that work? What's really going wrong?
Well, it's the $1 million question, right? You already put me on the spot on that one. This is something that I see that a lot of people always bring up, right? Because how does it tell you when we're spending so much money? We're doing so much of everything, really and truly, trying to fight off the threats around us, but ultimately, we're still dealing with data breaches and with all the security incidents. I think if you look a bit, a bit of like at a helicopter view to what really the problem is, in my view, I think it's also a view that probably other professionals in this field would share, is that we're not treating the root causes, right? We're treating basically the symptoms. We're very much focused on fighting off the symptoms. The ecosystem, the market is tailored to help us fight off the symptoms, right? Because all the products that we see out there typically aim to help us, or at least they claim to address those symptoms. So most of the time we are pretty much focused, and our energy is going into fighting off all the problems that creep up, right? All the vulnerabilities that we need to patch, all the attacks that we need to be aware of, and have the right safeguards and measures against. Where's the time to actually stop and think about the root causes? The business process that was one day designed in a certain way, and nobody ever challenged that original design. I'm sure Jake sees this quite often, right? From a strategic point of view, when he's dealing with clients on helping them come up with a digital strategy, because that's where it starts, right? I mean, cybersecurity at the end of the day is then enables the transformation and the digitalization of the strategy itself.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that takes me to Jake in terms of a lot of discussions around AI, largely as a productivity tool, but I'm assuming it can do more. How can that be part of this whole transformation, but also complement cybersecurity?
I mean, AI is not new. So one thing I want to demystify is we're talking out a lot about AI now, but it's always existed. A lot of people think of it nowadays as a productivity tool because of things like Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. That's generative AI really. So you enter a prompt into a computer like we're speaking at the moment, and it's going to give you a reply. And obviously it has its use cases there. However, when it comes to looking at how it can enable, business optimization. So if you're thinking about customer service, right? You don't need a human anymore to answer the first line of support. So it's in sense that it can enable business transformation, but also help protect in cyber. One thing you asked, Kirsten, of why are there so many cyber attacks at the moment, and sort of with the spend that's going on. I think it's due to AI as well, right? Because nowadays, and I was talking to someone recently about this, I don't know how to hack anyone, right? I don't know how to hack, but data has always been there, and data is valuable. So nowadays, to hack someone, it's much easier with AI. Obviously, that information that it has is all sort of in it, and one can ask a question, listen, there's this system, Mr. X is using this system, I want to get the data from that system, and AI will tell you how to do it. So that's also another use case of how you can use AI in a bad way. I'm sure Kirsten will agree. It is actually being using in this way by sort of threat actors.
One key question I want to get to is that how these two parts can help differentiate a business and give it advantage versus being just treated as spends or just for efficiency
I think
purpose.
AI and cybersecurity make if you used right, used intelligently, can be used in a proactive way. So AI can help make businesses more proactive in their operations, right, rather than customers complaining about a product or a service, and that data is in the customer complaint. Someone having to analyze it manually, it can continuously analyze it. I think, similarly in cyber, AI allows you to be more proactive to understand the threats.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also there's two facets of how we look at AI from a cybersecurity point of view. On the kind of the defensive side, I mean, AI, there's a lot, with an AI or Gen AI in particular, there's a lot of use cases nowadays where, or how it can actually help, monitoring teams, security monitoring teams, to basically, be more efficient, they're more enabled to look at the more important alerts, right? Trying to focus a bit more on what really should be their focus, and down a bit of the noise in the background. So with the use of like the security co-pilots and chatbots, where you can actually in plain English query the system to tell you, listen, can you tell me more about this attack from this source, right? That has these characteristics, and that cuts down obviously your analytic time and investigation time dramatically. So that's obviously one of the use cases on the forefront. I mean, it is used, and we in fact use it as well in our line of work, where we're using AI to help us be in a better position to test our systems or the client systems, because obviously that's what the threat actors out there are doing. They're leveraging this technology so that they come up with the more sophisticated type of attacks. We can speak about the technological type of attacks. Okay, I mean, like system hacking, which is now accelerated, as Jackie was saying, because simply you can query.
You can make it easy.
Yeah, you can query and you can bypass as well the ethical parameters or the ethical boundaries if you're clever enough, and it will tell you what you need to know. But besides that, there's also, and we've been seeing this in the last couple of years, right? A lot of disinformation campaigns.
Yeah.
Also the use of deepfakes, where again that obviously again is a concern to businesses, to governments, to obviously any competent organization with certain responsibilities at a national level. And at the same time, we can leverage that technology to help train people, to recognize, right, these deepfakes. It's not easy, right?
No, there's a story on the deepfakes of someone, I think in Asia, basically a CFO being called to a meeting on Teams, by the CEO, and they were all deep fakes. And the guy nearly wired, I don't know how much the money was, the value,
It was
but
for an acquisition
for
of
an
a
ac- but
company.
it was quite a few million.
Yeah.
And this guy noticed just on a small, slight whim at the very end of the call. I mean, think of it like that. That's quite scary that you can go into a call with someone
That's true.
actually seeing the person and they're deep fake.
That's true.
Exactly.
Are there any live examples or things you've done? I know you work with quite a number of clients. Anything that comes to mind in terms of who's done it well? What were the kind of key factors that differentiated?
Has anyone
Well,
done
I
it
think-
well?
Well is a big word there, right? I mean, I can think of a couple of organizations and client of ours as well who obviously try to do it the right way, okay, with all the challenges that this journey comes with. Unfortunately, I would say, especially in the local scene, they're a bit too few and far in between, right? These companies, but again, I mean, over the last couple of years, we're seeing a trend.
The journey has started.
Yes,
yeah.
the journey has started. We're seeing a trend to a more positive or at least outlook, right, I would say, right? So I'm a bit hopeful for the next couple of years, and this has been accelerated, obviously by regulation, which we should not touch upon because that would be another podcast on its own for sure, with all the regulations both on the cyber security front and the AI front that are coming out, but like it or not, it's actually helping, right? Because at least people who need to take decision are asking the right questions. They're asking the right questions internally, right? The board is asking to the senior management, to the executives. The executives, are reaching out to consultants. So this is something that typically is exhibited by, let's say, the organizations who were already on that maturity journey, right? They're a bit ahead of, let's say, the rest. It comes to, I would say the majority, but a good portion of organizations, mostly locally, right? But I mean, I'm sure this applies as well in the EU zone and beyond. The way still that they're looking at security is again, it's an afterthought, right? After they've done the investment. Most of the time, it's also a technology first type of investment. So a vendor knocks on your door, right? They are promising you that, listen, whatever solution they are selling, which I'm sure it has good qualities, but the way unfortunately kind of that would be sold is that, listen, this solution will make you secure. It's 100%, right? You will be sleeping at night like a baby if you install this. But in reality, going back to Jake's point, no one would have really first asked the right questions at the beginning. Why do we need this in the first place, right? And very often companies would make this investment, right, which is obviously sizable, usually in the six-figure region, and later on, something bad happens, and obviously there's the blame culture creeps in, and everyone starts asking whether it was the right investment at all. But it was already a bit too late. The trust has already been
It's lost. Yeah.
lost or correct, right?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
depends on which sector you're operating, because there are certain sectors, right, obviously command higher levels of trust and integrity. Okay, I mean,
Financial
financial
services.
services being one of them.
Retail. There was a big hack in the UK recently. A
Yeah.
lot of people lost their data.
Exactly.
How did that impact that retailer going? The people going to buy every day from them. Because when you interact with a company, you're giving them data at the end of the day, right? So I fully agree with Kirsten.
It's,
Sometimes it's always the case. It's not only in cyber, even in AI and other things we do. Companies invest because someone comes to knock on the door. Hey, you need a new CRM. You need a new ERP. Okay, why do you need it?
It's the symptom.
Some-
You have some symptoms, you're approached with a solution, and then you go implement. I guess that also leads me to this question. You've worked on a lot of transformation projects. I'm sure we have quite a number of CEOs, CTOs listening to this podcast. What would be that first thing you'd advise as an action or a step in this area?
I mean, understand whether the investment you're making is really worth it. What is the benefit you're going to get? And how big is the benefit? Because really and truthfully, it's a game of chess, all of this. You might see it as a benefit, but how big is the benefit and how quantifiable is it? If it's a small benefit, is it okay? It has benefit. Is it even worth doing it? Is it going to transform your operations significantly? Is it going to make you more secure? So obviously, sometimes there will be very little benefit in terms of, monetary revenue benefits. But I always tell people, listen, if you're working on legacy technologies, of which there are a lot, obviously, if you don't have the right securities around those legacy technologies because they can't have them, the benefit might not be a monetary one, but it's another one, which is having more secure, which at the end of the day is one which impacts your
linked to
money,
the other,
because
yeah.
an organization is a value chain. It's linked to each other. So you need to understand what benefits it has and whether you're even ready for that journey, because sometimes people embark on a transformation for the best of wishes and the best causes. However, they're not ready for it. So I always tell clients, first you need to crawl, right? Then you need to walk, and then you need to run. If you're going to go through a very big transformation with either not, enough people, or not enough skilled people, or it's not the right time in your business, right? Your business is undergoing a lot of change in the market. Think twice about doing that big transformation. Maybe scale it down. And one thing clients need to understand is this is a journey. Okay, like in humans, life is a journey. Transformation is a journey, doesn't stop. Don't think because your transformation was, I don't know, a 24-month transformation and you can't do it anymore, then that's a reason not to transform.
Yeah.
Scale it down. And instead of 24, make it 48 months. Make it, I don't know, even longer. And think about what you need to achieve in terms of prioritization. Because when you go into an organization and organizations want to transform, everything is a priority.
True.
Everything is a priority. However, what is core to your business? What is core to your operations? What is core that keeps the lights on and running at the end of the day? And these are the questions that organizations need to ask.
And there are tools, I guess, to help come to this decision and have this debate internally in terms of what to prioritize and which ones to, put all the efforts behind.
And
Yeah.
if I may, because I mean, Jake touched upon a very, very valid point as well from a cybersecurity point of view. The right questions, very often, again, I find that are not being asked as well by, those chief information security officers or equivalent in that position to the business. Very often you'll have the security department, right, pretty much isolated in their own ivory tower, right, creating all the policies and all the controls, and applying them across the organization without really understanding what the organization is all about. What does this business stand for? What are its values, right? What is the strategy, the business strategy? This disconnect is unfortunately again one of that root causes that we talked about at the beginning. So unless, right, again, the information security officer is sitting down with all the relevant business owners, right, really understanding how actually they're carrying out their day-to-day activities, their operations. If you don't ask those questions and you get the right answer, how are you actually then, making the business secure? You're just applying controls for the sake of applying controls. And again, this is one of my frustrations because I see it unfortunately too often.
Yeah.
And again, it's a people, right? It's a people issue first, and then the design of the process itself. You don't need a team of 100 professionals to do good security, because again, the misconception is that you really need a very large team. Even if we talk about a 500 employee organization or 1,000 employee organization, you maybe need a team of 30. I've heard stories where security teams of 3-5 people in very large organizations made it work, right? Because in the first 100 days the chief information security officer was going around speaking to the business and really understanding the business first, and then tailoring the security program to what the business needs.
That's key in any transformation, be it security, finance, technology. If you don't understand the business, right, you don't understand what the people do, how can you transform? So, for example, we're talking about data loss, right? So you have the best systems, but if the people don't understand what happens, what are the consequences on the business if the data is lost or if they're hacked? Okay, so what then? You're not going to transform, you're not going to have good security. So it always starts, I think, with people. And it's the same even with this AI and, all the technological transformation. If you don't understand what people are doing, then how can you transform? And that's where you find resistance. So I fully agree with Kirsten. Sometimes, yes, we do look at cybersecurity people in their ivory towers. They don't come down from them. So it's where AI is a very innovative technology. And cyber is always looked at as the people who say no. In the case, and I debate a lot with Kirsten about this, it shouldn't be the case. There's something called as governed innovation governance, where the world of information security and these innovative technologies need to live with each other for the sake of enabling transformation. If you're going to have someone who's very secure, right, and says, no, your organization, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirst, is not even going to be innovative when it comes to cybersecurity.
Probably not even secure.
So, exactly. So they're not going to use the most innovative security solutions. They probably won't be secure. But then if you have on the other side no security and a lot of innovation, you're going to be innovative, but then it's a free-for-all, right? It's about using data for the sake of AI and doing AI things that you shouldn't be. So there needs to be a happy medium. And, these two worlds need to come and they need to intertwine rather than looking at them as separate. And we do see sometimes on boards, and Kirsten and I give a lot of training to boards, there is a bit of underrepresentation sometimes on both angles, both on the security and both on like the information innovation, right, side. And it's always a problem because if the board doesn't have those two key people there, how does it get it, right? How does a CEO get finance? He has a CFO. How does he get operations? They have a COO. If they don't have the representatives from information security and, technology, information, data, and AI transformation, call it what you want, on the board presenting agenda items of how, they need to look at these topics, then I don't know how they're going to transform, let alone be secure.
True. That's true. I think talking about how you mentioned earlier that businesses are now starting to think and the journey around both AI and cybersecurity, what would be the steps now that's best to take now? I know you mentioned like doing the scope, looking at prioritization, etc. But what would be that bite-sized effort that people can take?
You go back to obviously having, or taking the initiative to have those discussions, right? Starting from the top. From a cybersecurity point of view, again, there needs to be that frequent interaction between security people and the business, so that first and foremost there's a good understanding of what the business is trying to achieve in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, because ultimately any investment, any activity that's being done by IT, by security, and all the supporting functions need to be aligned with that, right? Not have a separate strategy. So this is really and truly a simple conversation, right? It's not because you're asked, right? How can they start simple? It's a simple conversation. We don't need to over-engineer this interaction, and this applies to both the smaller organizations and the larger ones, right? Just book the time, and have frequent meetings, have those conversations, and I think. And at the end of those conversations, there will always be an outcome of what to do next, right? So I think that based on those conversations, there's this connection being built by both teams, right? By the business and in this case, cybersecurity team, and ultimately the strategy will start to become aligned, because again, you cannot have a convergent strategy if you're never discussing. So I really believe that it becomes more naturally. The problem is that people are not speaking to each other. It's about going back to a basic human connection, right?
Communication builds trust.
So because there's no magic to it. There's no rocket science, right?
Yeah.
It's really having a good understanding of the business, really knowing the people who are taking the decisions, and together, you're able to identify what are the right way of doing your governance, your risk management, um, of what type of investment, and expenditure that's needed, that is aligned with how the business is growing. Because I would say it's stupid, right? Looking at, maybe $500,000 investment cybersecurity when, the growth in the next couple of years is looking at on the slimmer side, right? So, and again, unfortunately, it is often the case that there is the push for more budget, for more people coming from a security point of view, and truly, and then there's this obviously bit of a tug of war between the CFO and the decision maker on the security side, and they're not understanding each other because they've never had the conversation. Probably the CFO would only know about the information security officer because they just receive an email with the budget
With
request.
the us.
No.
Yeah.
So it's really simple,
It's
right?
a classic case of, people don't get IT people. So, and I think people need to live. I mean, it's an organization, a value chain. Everything needs to be living with each other. And I mean, think of it like this, and this is segues really good into the AI topic. We're moving from generative AI to agentic AI. So nowadays it's not about, okay, what can AI do? Let me enter a question. It's more about what tasks can AI do. So you're gonna have a virtual workforce. Organizations are going to have to live. People are gonna have to live with, assistants, these agents, being part of the workforce. And that's the next thing for AI. It's about understanding, okay, we're all fighting and struggling for people. Nowadays we're not finding organizations. Any organization I speak to speaks about, listen, they're having people problems. It takes long to recruit. They don't find the right people, or they find the right people, then they leave. With AI, it sort of solves that problem. It solves it, and I'm saying it sort of solves the problem because people are people at the end of the day, and AI has not reached yet artificial general intelligence that it has an identity. All right, that it's like Kirsten or yourself, Shreeram, or me. It's an AI. It's an assistant. Doesn't have an identity. However, what it will be doing is taking away tasks, right? That either people have to do and are low value, so they always deprioritize them, but they're still important to do, or else take over tasks completely that have some value, that allow people to do more value-adding things. So if you think of it like this, thinking of AI, it's adopting it. It's not adopting and adapting it to it. It's not about pushing it aside and thinking of it as another technology that will not become pervasive. It is going to become pervasive because at the end of the day, we're trying to teach and solve a problem where we're teaching a human. A human is teaching a machine to do what it does, right? So we're trying to replicate a human into a machine.
Yeah.
And we need to live with that. We need to understand how to make the best use of it. And organizations, to understand how to make the best use of it, don't go implement large-scale AI projects, right? You wouldn't recruit someone new and give them the keys to the organization as the CEO, no? So think of an AI as a low entry-level employee, okay, that can do certain tasks and over time grow, okay, take over new tasks. And don't think of AI as just one thing or one assistant. It could be mini assistants. So you'd have a micro assistant doing, I don't know, reading an email and summarizing it. Another one would be extracting that data and putting it into a quotation system. Another one would be generating the quote. Another one would be sending the quote to the client. I'm talking about sales processing. Another one could be to sort of train people on security. I mean, tell them, listen, accelerate, you recently sent some data to, your personal email. What was it for? That's against company policy. Here's some training. Accelerate, using AI to accelerate those tasks that we really need to be doing that we're not doing. At the end of the day, we all struggle with saying, I have my to-do list is forever growing. Using AI can help that to-do list shrink. I'm not going to tell you it's ever going to disappear, because that means I think we end up without a job. But it is important to recognize that we need to live with AI. And AI going from concept to scale, there is a journey. So it's not about saying, all right, here's the AI, throw it into production, it will work. No, it's about understanding what the AI is supposed to be achieving, doing a proof of value, proof of concept, and then scaling it. Even in terms of implementing it, if you're going to implement assistants that are enterprise-wide, yes, that's very good. That's the ambition. But focus on first a proof of value within a particular department, then another department, then another department, because you realize in each department there are people. Each department, the people are different. They have different mindsets. If you're talking to a finance department, it's going to be different than talking to, I don't know, a risk management department or customer service. So understanding these sort of nuances between the different departments and the different people is ever important in adopting AI and understanding how to implement it. Because at the end of the day, it is a pervasive technology. It will have a lot of benefits, but it will have benefits only if adopted properly. That's what worries me, the adoption of it for harm. I think we can both agree that AI can be used and will be used going forward by certain actors, even internally with organizations, right? For bad, for malicious use.
True. And I think those are some key insights in terms of starting small and then replicating what's working and building on top of that. And I guess value is unlocked not only from the efficiencies gained by automating it, but also what else can be done in that spared up time, whether the business can scale doing more or get into new segments that they had not been into because of resource constraints. So value can be unlocked in two ways there.
And value is unlocked at the end of the day. Value to each person and each department means something different, right? What value means to you or to you means different to what value means to me. And that's what people need to realize. What is the value AI has to different people and how will it have value and how you can unlock that value. So that's why nowadays with AI, they're calling them not proof of concepts, proof of value, right? Because it might have value in 5 departments and not 2 departments. Does it mean the AI doesn't have value? Definitely not. Implement it for those 5 and then say, okay, what do these 2 departments value? What does the AI have to do differently for these 2 departments?
Well, I guess, I think that's a good insight in terms of these 2 topics. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Jake. If you're really curious about anything, go online, read up on these topics. It's an evolving technology. Loads of new things are coming up. Stay innovative, stay secure, and thank you for listening.